Why is everyone leaving Canon? What a beautiful song. Before we get started, today is the last day you can get in on the crazy $99 offer that comes with my new course, 10 Steps to Go Full-Time in Wedding Photography. Starting on January 1st, the course will be released and it will also go up to $399, so get in now if you want. It also comes with bonuses like my full preset pack, which is usually $89 on its own. So for just $10 extra, you're getting this course, and not only that, but you're also getting my full Flash for Wedding Photographers course, which goes through my on-camera and off-camera flash strategies for weddings, and also a ton of other bonuses. 100% money back guarantee, so if you get it, it's not what you're expecting, send me an email, I'll send your money back, nothing to lose. But if you want that $99 deal, you have to get it in before midnight Eastern time tonight. Today though, we're talking about Canon and why everyone, at least in my life, seems to be leaving Canon. I also don't know of anyone recently that is getting into photography and they have the money to invest in a new kit. They're wondering, do they go Nikon, do they go Sony, do they go Canon, do they go Fuji, do they go Leica M1? I vote the M1. But I think if you do take a look at all the available options, you're probably not going to be picking Canon in this year. To speak to a few of the people that I know that have left Canon, my wife Lindsay is now a Nikon shooter again. She went Canon for a little bit. Marshall, who shoots a lot of the content here on the channel, he has been a Canon photographer since his birth. I think he came out as a baby with a Canon camera. He has recently switched. He's also gone Android to iPhone this year and Infinity to BMW, so it's been a big year for Marshall. My friend Chris, who also shoots on the channel sometimes as well as weddings with me, is also, he had a brief stint. He had maybe 2 months with Canon before going to Sony. Liam's Nikon, I've seen him on the channel a lot, and Tim is the last remaining Canon user that I know, but he's on the cinema line. But by the end of the year, it wouldn't surprise me if he's on an FX3 or the Pixis. Tim loves the Pixis. All this to be said, the Canon stock price is doing just fine. They're not going out of business. More on that a little bit later. So where are all of the Canon shooters going and why are they leaving? I'll start with my story. So I was Nikon DSLRs forever, and then moving into mirrorless. Sony screens were always terrible. So I shot with the A7 III for a week, and I found the screen to be borderline unusable. So I just continued using my Nikon DSLRs. And then Canon came out with the R6, which was the perfect wedding photography camera, although it did have some issues like overheating if you're shooting video. But it ticked all the boxes for me as a wedding photographer. So in 2020, I made the partial switch. So I was shooting some weddings on Nikon and some on Canon. The Canon autofocus was obviously superior to the Nikon mirrorless in 2020. And then something interesting happened, at least for myself as a wedding photographer. The Tamron 35-150 came into existence, and that pretty much tipped me to Sony. So I didn't switch to Sony, I switched to Tamron. And at the time, you had to put that on a Sony camera. Now you can put it on a Nikon camera. And it's funny because Tamron is partially owned by Sony. So when you buy a Nikon Tamron lens, you're still paying Sony. When you buy an iPhone, you're paying Sony. So even if you don't think you're a Sony shooter, you probably are. I had a few frustrations with Canon, and I feel like they are echoed throughout the community. The one was obviously the lack of third-party lenses. The reason that I went a lot heavier into Sony was because of third-party lenses. And while yes, Canon does have some nice stuff, I find a lot of it, it doesn't quite fit exactly where I would want it in a wedding photography kit. And it's very clear that most of the lenses are manufacturing now. The ones that could be a great wedding lens, like the 24 to 105 f2.8, is designed more for video, and also the 35-1.4. I was so happy to learn that Canon was doing 1.4 glass, and I hope that that continues, because that was something that was absolutely lacking from their lineup, that you got pretty decent 1.8 glass and really, really nice 1.2 glass, but the 1.2 glass was incredibly heavy and incredibly expensive. And it would be beautiful if there was 1.4 glass, like the Samyang 85 1.4, which is still probably my favorite lens for the Canon mirrorless system, even though you can't buy it anymore because they released an unauthorized third-party lens with autofocus. Another intentional decision that bothered me a lot was with the Canon R6 line, so the R6 and the R6 II. If you are in photography mode and you're a hybrid photo video creator and you hit the record button on your camera when you're in photo mode, it would launch you into automatic video, and there was nothing you could do. So you didn't get control over your frame rate, you didn't get control over your aperture, you just got a plus-minus exposure comp. I'm hoping maybe that firmware has fixed that in the R6 Mark II, but in the R6 original I used a lot. It was very, very annoying. And they easily could have set it up so if you're on the R5 and you hit the record button when you're in photo mode, it just goes into whatever settings are saved to C3. So you can save some video settings, manual video, whatever you want, to C3, and then you launch into it when you hit the record button. They easily could have done that, but they didn't, because they want you to buy the R5 instead of the R6, where I eventually ended up going with the R3 and shot that for most of a season. And then the last thing to talk about, I feel like this has been ongoing now for a little while. the innovation in Canon seems to, at least for us as wedding photographers and sometimes video creators, I feel like it hasn't really progressed. I would still recommend the R5 original, the R6 original. They're great cameras if you're a wedding photographer. The R6 II and the R5 II, I probably wouldn't recommend that you spend the extra money to get them, but maybe that just means that the original products were so good and maybe even ahead of their time that they're still fine today. I feel like that kind of goes for anything in the imaging world, that even if you're shooting a DSLR product from 2017, it's still gonna create images that look just as good as everything that's coming out right now. You're not gonna get eye autofocus and some of the other mirrorless upgrades, but overall, I was very, very happy with my DSLRs. So those are some of my thoughts. My question to you is that if you currently had no cameras and you were looking at the industry, you had money to invest, you could buy a proper kit, would you be considering Canon at the top of that list, or would other brands be in more consideration for your money? Again, last day to get in on that $99 special. Get in before it's gone. 100% money back guarantee. You get the incredible deal, and it's not what you're expecting. Send me an email, I'll send your money back. Absolutely no risk to you. So click over, grab that course, and I'll see you inside there starting tomorrow.